What up, everybody? Today I want to talk about a clip from the official 4 Season 3 teaser video that shows Diamond standing over a table of gats. On this table I can count at least 12 gats, either though it's only showing part of the table and the rest of the table's cut off. So there's also more gats on the other side of the table. From this clip it looks like Diamond is strapping up the soldiers of CBI, putting all these guns on the streets. Keep it in mind that last season, Diamond gave a speech at the Crimson Projects when after this speech his parole officer told him that 25 guns were turned in that day. And like I said, I could count 12 gats on the table that Diamond was standing over, and it was only showing part of the table. So I think ironically enough there's probably 25 gats on the table that Diamond's about to put on the street, just like how Diamond's speech calls 25 gats to be taken off the streets. So this shows that Diamond has done a complete 180 since getting out of prison and trying to be non-violent, and from when he gave the speech at the Crimson Projects to now going back to the old Diamond that we've heard Jannard mention throughout the series. And I also wonder where Diamond got all these guns from, and if it could possibly be the same guns that were taken off the street in Season 2. We also see a couple gold guns on the table in that clip. And another clip from the teaser shows Tommy holding one of the gold guns and saying this is some real El Chapo shit right here. And it's also ironic how Tommy is talking about a real life cartel leader, El Chapo, on force. Keeping in mind that one of the cartel leaders from OG Power, Diego Jimenez, also used a gold gun. Alicia called it the flashiest gun she's ever seen, and that gold gun had a big role in Power, because Diego had multiple kills with that specific gun. And Alicia ultimately planted it in a warehouse to try to get Diego locked up before Steve Tampio let them both go free. So because that specific gun is so flashy and distinguished, I do wonder if it could come back into play at some point in Season 3 after Tommy smokes somebody with it. Similar to how Alicia tried to set Diego up by planting his gold gun in that warehouse. In addition to the gold gun Easter egg, Diamond passing out these guns is also an Easter egg, going back to Power Episode 1 when Ghost and Tommy strapped up their crew because of the previous robbery that Kanan had set up. So in the same type of way, Diamond passing out these gats most likely means that CBI is either under attack or at war. In Power, the big problem that Ghost and Tommy was facing is the fact they didn't know who was hitting them. They were paranoid and blaming every premiere that they had, with Ghost ultimately playing right into Kanan's hands, killing Rolla because he thought he was behind the attacks, coming for Ghost's spot in the same type of way that Ghost did with Breeze. Ghost wasn't even packing at this point in time, but Tommy convinced him to take one for himself, saying what would he tell Tasha if something happened, letting Ghost walk around without protection with everything that was going on. Liliana was also one of the couriers who got strapped up that day, and was ultimately the next person who Pink Sneakers went after when Liliana killed the guy that Pink Sneakers was with and got the cut on her face. And like how I questioned where Diamond got all those gats from, Ghost and Tommy were able to strap up their crew because Ruiz had a shipment of guns coming in through his Florida Connect, and he agreed to hook Ghost and Tommy up. So because Diamond and Tommy are in a similar position that Ghost and Tommy were in at the beginning of Power Season 1, having Ramirez, because they have all those crews that united with CBI under the coalition, one of those crews could also be where Diamond got those gats from. The obvious crew to point the finger at for the reason why CBI is strapping up would be Miguel Garcia's Insane Prince gang. But either though Miguel is pissed off about what went down and how Tommy and Diamond backdoored him with Che, at the end of the day, this beef is more of a personal beef between Tommy and Miguel. And at the conclusion of Season 2, Diamond still didn't know anything about Tommy's relationship with Mireya, and he had even warned Tommy to stay away from her at the beginning of Season 2. Not to mention, I don't think Miguel wants any kind of problems with Che after agreeing to keep the peace between his gang and CBI at the end of Season 2. So I don't think he would want to go to war with CBI knowing they have the coalition and that it would cause problems with Che. So if Miguel were to come at Tommy and CBI, he would have to do it in an indirect type of way, like how he's currently trying to get to Tommy through his own sister, Mireya, or by aligning with another enemy of CBI or Tommy and getting them to do the dirty work, while Miguel keeps his hands clean so he doesn't have any type of problems with Che. The other day I talked about the possibility of Miguel reaching back out to his New York contact that he initially got information about Tommy from and getting more dirt on him and possibly aligning with an enemy of Tommy's like the Savello mob or possibly the Toros Locos. And even though I do think there's a good possibility that we will see that take place in Season 3, we already know that Tommy will have more problems than that, and it might not be why Diamond was passing out those gats. Keeping in mind that Gennard and Shanti's Showstopper are plotting against Tommy as well. And similar to how in Power Season 1 the person behind the attacks against Ghost and Tommy's organization was Kanan, who was an inside man, another parallel could be that Gennard and Shanti begin to plot to take over CBI, potentially by creating chaos and confusion in the same type of way that Kanan did, possibly robbing one of Tommy and Diamond's shipments or something like that, and having Tommy and Diamond questioning who is behind the attack, similar to how Ghost and Tommy were. But in the same type of way that Kanan hired Pink Sneakers so he could keep his hands clean while he was in prison, and if Miguel were to come against Tommy or CBI, he would have to hire another crew to keep his hands clean. Gennard and Shanti would also have to do the same type of thing. But if Gennard and Shanti were able to pull this off, this is obviously going to piss off Diamond and Tommy and have them looking for answers. And the first direction that they could potentially look in would be Miguel and the Insane Prince gangs. Not to mention, if CBI starts getting hit as soon as they start working for Che, it could also make them seem unreliable and potentially have Che second guessing if working with CBI was the right decision. Similar to how in Power, Ghost and Tommy had only been working for Lobos 6 months at the time of the attacks. Not to mention, if CBI starts getting hit, this could also have Diamond and Tommy looking at the other crews in the coalition in the same type of way that Ghost and Tommy were looking at their Primeras in Power. Except we could actually see Tommy in more of Ghost's role this time because he's been through a similar situation before. While now that Diamond's going back to his old ways, he could be more hot-headed and out for blood like Tommy was in OG Power. And of course, another scenario to where CBI would need to strap up is if King Kilo gets out of prison and Diamond and Gennard aren't able to deliver D-Mac to him as promised, because King Kilo's already threatened to go to war when he gets out. And if this happens, then the whole coalition could be up in smoke. And with no more peace agreements between rival crews, CBI would definitely need to strap up. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.